Hello and welcome to Golden Age of Geek. I'm Mike, your host, and this is another companion piece to the articles I've been writing in Script Magazine. This one focusing on the Marvel supervillain, the Abomination. As I mentioned before in my Iron Man video, check the link below, also the link to the original article. Marvel's MCU got off to a very hot start with Iron Man, the very first one. It was an instant classic, and it established what a good Marvel supervillain should look like. Somebody who is charismatic, someone who is likable, someone who actually has a personal relationship to the hero and in some way reflects the hero. Unfortunately, they followed that up immediately with the Incredible Hulk, which is sort of the forgotten entry in the MCU, especially the early editions. That's mostly due to the fact that Edward Norton was replaced as the Hulk, Bruce Banner, by Mark Ruffalo in the Avengers. But more than that, its villain, Emil Blonsky, kind of shows some of the traps that Marvel would later fall into. Blonsky is by no means a bad villain. Actually, he's kind of an improvement over what we would see later on. Yes, he doesn't have that personal relationship with Banner. I mean, he's only after Banner and the Hulk because that's his job. But the fascinating thing about him is the lengths he'll go to complete that job. He has some incredible drive to achieve his goals, and that leads him down a pretty dark path. We actually see him go from a normal man to a super soldier to an insane monster, and that actually gives him a complete arc, something that later villains like the Red Skull and Ronan simply wouldn't have. So it wasn't a complete failure by any means, but it did point the way that they were having a little bit of difficulty, fully fleshing out all of their villains the way they had with Obadiah Stane and the Ironmonger. And the very next villain they would, or this, the second, Thor was actually the second movie, the fourth movie in the series. They would soon introduce Loki, and that would just change everything. But if you take a look at the Incredible Hulk, there's a lot of things that still hold up. Most importantly, the antagonist role played by William Hurt as General Ross. He would later return as Secretary Ross in Captain America: Civil War, playing a very crucial part, and he does a lot of the same. He fulfills a lot of the same function here. He is really an antagonist. A lot of what happens in this movie happens because of him, because of his desire to turn Banner's research into a weapon of some kind. But ultimately, that also kind of points out another weakness that the MCU has, though it hasn't really propped up as much, and that is, unlike TV, episodic TV, or their Netflix projects, these movies take a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money to produce. As such, we don't get as much progression from some of the characters as we ought to. Ross is a huge part of the Marvel comics, and to simply write him into other stories to give the same kind of progression would be no problem. Here, it's completely different. We had to wait almost to just about 10 years before Ross would again show up in the flesh in another Marvel movie. And, that's kind of a problem. And we also see things like the rumors that, the Abomination was supposed to make an appearance in Age of Ultron. I don't know if that would have made a difference to that movie, but it would have been interesting, and it would have been in keeping with the comic books where, villains who prop up in some areas become the hired muscle or servants of later villains. So we'll see what happens. It would be really great if Abomination could make an appearance in the Infinity War arc, because at the moment, Thanos is kind of low on cannon fodder at the moment. They're going to have to introduce a whole bunch of other guys to absorb the Avengers and the other opponents he's going to have. So that concludes my thoughts on Abomination and the Incredible Hulk. We'll be following up with a video on Whiplash and Loki, of course. And I will be continuing my series of articles on Script Magazine, so watch for them on the website. Link is included. I'll see you and I will see you all later. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Mike at Golden Age of Geek. Bye-bye.